Hey guys, welcome back to the ASAP Automotive channel. We're back at it with another how-tos with Mike, and today we're going to be teaching you how to, or showing you how to change a fuel pump module assembly in a GMT 400 platform, such as Silverado, Tahoe, Yukon, Suburban, Sierra, etc. So, stay tuned. Hi guys, today we're back at it with another one of our how-tos with Mike in our series, and today, like I said, we're going to be showing you how to change out your fuel pump module assembly in one of these, what's called the GMT 400 platform, which really started back in like 88 with this body style and frame of truck or whatever, carried on into like 2000 or 2001 in the 3/4 and 1 tons. So that includes Tahoe, Suburbans, Yukons, Yukon XLs, Sierra, and Silverados. So pretty much from 96 on, when they went with the actual Vortec motors, these are all pretty much the same. The 95 and earlier with the TBI setups, I think a little different, maybe more like an old metal hanger assembly, but it's fairly close. So that being said, today we're working on our shop truck, the old Tahoe as she's affectionately called, and it's getting a little weak. We know we got some other issues going on with this thing. I bought it really cheap. It's got almost 200,000 miles on it, but it's been kind of a good ongoing project. One of the things I noticed is this thing's holding fuel pressure like it should, but barely, and when you really dig into it, it's just not there. So decided, you know what, we're gonna go ahead and change out the fuel pump assembly. So if it's ever been changed, someone's probably put some, cheap, junk in it. So anyways, we're gonna go ahead and get at it. We're gonna start showing you guys how to go about doing this. All right, guys, so as you'll notice, we went ahead and pulled the drive shaft out of the way. We ended up having an issue with the rear arm on the lift, kind of being the pad being in the way. So just a few little 11mm bolts to pull out the straps, and then just go ahead and drop the drive shaft out of the way. Make sure you don't let the caps on the U-joints come off, because you're gonna end up with a bad day. But it helped us give us some room to go ahead and get it on out. So I wanted to go ahead and give you a quick, or show you some of the stuff on the top side that you can't really see when you're dropping this tank, that you want to be careful of, that you don't break, because some of this stuff you're not going to be able to find anywhere unless you get lucky and find a good tank in the salvage yard. So this is one of the vent lines for the tank. Little quick connect here, you just squeeze in, the line pops right out. And then over here we've got a tank pressure sensor, which is pretty much no different than a map sensor, sitting over here that's plugged in. Now, depending on your application and year, yours might look a little different, but this is the kind of stuff you want to look for. Normally there's going to be some kind of vent hose. Some of them have the pressure sensor, some of them don't. This one, being a later one, definitely does. That's the kind of stuff you want to make sure when you're dropping the tank that you don't end up breaking anything. That too, these lines here are really fun to get off. I end up using this style quick connect tools, which one of mine is missing already, and I just bought these. They're actually much easier with this bracket all up in the way to get in there. They can just pop right in, and you can get in there and release the quick connections on the fuel lines. That, and you got this 4-pin connector here, which is another topic. So one of the reasons for doing this fuel pump assembly is, of course, that it's old, and it's literally the original one. You can see the barcoding on here and all that. So this thing's literally 20 years old with 200,000 miles on it. This is the old style connection, this square 4-pin connector. They were notorious for having connection issues and heating and melting and all that. So the new one is still 4-wire, but it's I think a GT280, I think is the technical number for the connector. But it's a flat 4-pin connector, and so how do you do that? How are you going to connect that up to your harness? Well, if you bought a good kit, it's going to come with this. Yeah, GT280 is the new connector. There's, I think, 4 different combinations for the wiring. You're not just going to match them up for color. Well, I think one of the combinations does. But what we're going to have to do is actually cut off the old connector and wire this new one in, which is what we're about to show you. So that being said, let's get at it. All right, guys, so my buddy here just posed a very good question about the connectors and stuff. So this is our new style connector here that we're going to be wiring in, and it's going to, whatever kit you get should have the same wire color set. He was asking why. He said, well, how do you know which ones? Are they different or whatever? So it depends on whether, a Tahoe might have a different harness than 3/4 ton pickup. Could be due to different years. Some only have a 3-wire harness coming out of the body, and most of them are 4 though. Like I said, there's 4 different ones, and this is, a good kit like this will have this in here telling you which wire is going to go to where. Like if you notice this one there, 2 of these wires connect together on one of the body harness ones. But all the other ones, I think one of these combinations, they match up wire for wire. Some of these are going to be different colors. So that goes back to buying quality parts also. This is a Delphi unit. It's actually a FG0089 for this particular application. Go with a Delphi or a Delco. Don't go buy some cheap off-brand crap. You're going to hate yourself for it. It's not fun dropping the tank in these things. You get a good Delphi, which is OEM, and this thing lasted 200,000 miles. You're going to get what you pay for. So, and you're going to get a lot better quality. You're going to see it in the parts. I've had cheap ones where customers put in and issues with the fuel sending gauge going out, bad cheap wiring, smaller gauge wiring, you name it. I mean, you could pick, I literally paid, I think, $100 or $120 from this from Summit. They're about the same on Amazon, so they've really come down. Like back in the day, these things used to be $200-300 all day long. So it's well worth spending the extra few bucks just getting a quality one. So I'm going to get off my soapstool and we're going to get back at wiring this stuff up now. Alright guys, so what we're going to be doing to connect this new connector to the body harness is these, what they call heat shrink butt connectors. So when you get this kit, there typically should be 2 red and 2 blue. These are color coded according to gauge. Like you can see here, that's for a 16 to 14 gauge, and this one is for a 20 to 18 gauge, which the higher the number, the smaller the wire, is the way it works with gauges, the wire gauging. So that being said, what I like to do is go ahead and go through here, and I've already done it on the body harness, is twist these strands together, or twist them around. That way when you go try to put them in the connector, they don't catch and roll back on you. You don't have some rogue strand not in the connection. It's going to make your life a fair bit easier. So what I like to do is go through here, and I actually like to go ahead and connect them on here first. That way you're not trying to hold it up here, put this on, and then try to connect these up there. It's just easier to do this free-handed and then just connect them all while you're above it. So that being said, this black one and the orange one are 2 larger gauge wires, so we're going to go ahead and put our blue one on there. See, there's a center point in there. You can see the indentation. I don't know if you guys can see in the center body of the connector. So we're going to stay on this side of it because we're just wanting to crimp this one side in. So just double check, make sure you're good and you're bottomed out. And so now we can go ahead and put it back in here and then just squeeze on down. You don't want to get too crazy with squeezing with it because you don't want to tear that shielding. So this is going to shrink in a little bit when we heat it up, and it's going to make a watertight seal to where the elements can't get in there and cause corrosion and cause bad connection. So if you squeeze too hard and end up tearing that cover, that heat shrinking, you defeat the whole purpose. So get that one done. We'll do a quick time lapse and knock the rest of these out and then connect them up there. All right, guys, so we got our wires all connected together according to our schematic. Now, you'll notice we went ahead and got the fuel lines over out of the way. I got a rag in there because we're about to be using heat and an open heat source. The last thing you want is fuel dripping around you there. So that's over and out of the way. The next thing we're going to do is go ahead and these, like I said, these are heat shrink butt connectors. So we're going to come across, we're going to turn on a heat gun. You can use a lighter if you want and stuff. I've got a heat gun here. You can pick these things up pretty cheap. This one's actually adjustable. I'm probably going to use it about 700 degrees, somewhere in that ballpark. I think this one will go up to like 1200 or something crazy. But that being said, you don't want to just sit there just right on it. You want to kind of waft, kind of start in the center and then kind of just work your way out a little bit. And you'll see it just starting to shrink and you'll see it suck down to the wire. Once it gets to that point, you're done. You put it on there too long, you end up cooking insulation, you're going to be counterproductive. But you do want to make sure it shrinks all the way down so it seals off. Otherwise, you'll still get the elements in there. So that being said, let's go ahead and get on and get this. Alright guys, so we got our harness all done, taped up. Thought I had some conduit laying around, guess I didn't, but anyways, it's all taped up and good to go. Now what we're going to do is actually work on changing out the module itself. So what you've got is a lock ring on here, and I've actually already taken this one loose, but this little catch here is normally back in here, and what you do is find you like a good brass drift punch or something like that. To be honest, even a good, heavy duty or decent flathead screwdriver will work. And you'll catch in here and just tap along, and you'll bring this counterclockwise, and it'll come around and release like this. So mine's a little rusty, but it's not terrible. It's still pretty good and solid. You can actually get these, like O'Reilly's, most any parts store. I think Dorman makes one. They make a part number for it, or a few different applications. So if yours is in really bad shape to where it's like coming apart or breaking, you can actually get it. They call it a lock ring or fuel tank lock ring. So you can look up for your application if need be. So everything else is pretty good. What you want to do now is before you pull this out, and I've already done mine a little bit, but I'm about to do it again, is take an air hose to here and blow off any loose stuff because you don't want any of that trash getting down into the tank. So we're going to go blow this off, and then we're going to pull this whole assembly out. Alright guys, so now we got our whole area clean around here. We're going to go ahead and pull our assembly out. So you might have this flex hose fight you a little bit coming out. It'll be tucked out there. And then you've got your float here and then a strainer on the bottom. So just take it nice and easy. Let it drain out a little bit. Fling a little bit of fuel everywhere. Now this canister is going to have fuel in it. Mine's not because, well, it might have some in it, but I've already had this out looking at it. But what you're going to do is just go over here and just dump it right back in. Makes a little bit of a mess, or you can pour it off into some other can or something with a funnel, whatever you want to do. So that being said, this is what this looks like. Yeah, this is actually, you can see the old style connector there. That's your supply and your return lines. Yours might have this sensor over here. Sometimes they'll have them there. You can see the provision for it. So yours might look a little bit different, but basically this is going to be it. This is your fuel gauge here. This float, just like in your toilet, that goes up and down. A varying rheostat there that gives you the varying signal for your fuel gauge. And then your actual pump is down in here. Down there in the bottom, little electric motor, and that's the supply hose going out of it. Just a little interesting little tidbit, side note here, this black hose is part of what's called the Venturi setup. So it actually sucks from the bottom. It allows you to run the tank even lower than a quarter of a tank. It's pretty neat, but to be honest, you should never really run your tank less than a quarter of a tank, or at least an eighth. The fuel is not only what cools, but what lubricates your fuel pump, so it's a good practice to at least have a quarter tank of fuel. Andrea, yes, I am talking to you about this. Talking about you on this situation. I have a friend of mine that constantly runs around with their low fuel light on. told her she's gonna end up with a fuel pump one day. So, bad fuel pump. Anyways, so you'll notice on our new one here, make sure my hands are good and clean. There's no strainer. For this newer style one, the actual strainer is inside the assembly. So don't freak out if you see that. Yours, depending on which one you get, if it's a different company, they might still use an old school strainer sock like this on there. This one was actually bunched up underneath here, so it's no wonder this thing wasn't getting near as much fuel as it should. But so that being said, we're going to set that to the side. We're going to come in here with a rag and wipe this nice and clean, and then we're going to install our new ring down in there. Okay, so depending on which one you get, your float might already come assembled, it might not, but it's really simple. You just down in the center there, and I like to grab behind it and then just pop it in like that, then it floats up and down. So we got our new sealing ring down in there, which just fits down in there just like that. Our old one was pretty old and cracked up. Most any good kit's gonna come with one. So now what we're gonna do is go ahead and look down in there. Sometimes you might have a situation where this sock deteriorates and comes apart, and you might need to go down there and fish out some of that stuff, otherwise it's going to get sucked up into the new pump. Everything's good and clean down in here. I've actually already looked in this one, and what I'm going to do is go ahead and start with the float first, snake it down in, and then just slide it down on in. It's going to be a little snug for a minute, and there we go. Okay, and a float free and clear. And so in this particular application, and normally on most of these, you'll have some kind of orientation tab to make sure this thing is clocked right. And that's where ours is right there. Everything fits down in good. What you want to do is hold that down in and then come back and slide this over. Okay. And you can pretty much do the reverse of what you did earlier. Just catch it on the other side, bump it a little bit here, bump it a little bit there, so it kind of comes around even, and then it'll lock in with that tab, and then it's good to go. And then we can work on putting our tank back up in. All right, guys, so we got our tank set up and going back up in with it. We went ahead and I've got the harness connector connected to the sending unit. You'll notice there's a little white, or yours might be gray, little tab here. When you connect on the connector, then you push it in and it should look like that, should go up flush. That's a lock to make sure that doesn't come unplugged. So now what we're gonna do is go ahead and continue on up. Then we're just gonna go ahead and reconnect our fuel lines, our supply and our return. They're two different sizes, so you can't really mix them up. We're going to connect our vent hose up front, and then our pressure sensor in the back, and our fill tube and vent tube back there, and then we can go ahead and work on bolting this bad boy back up in here. All right, guys, so we got our fuel tank all strapped up in. We got our all our connections on, our vent hose, our 2 hoses in the back, they're all tightened down. Went and put the drive shaft back in, just a couple of the 11mm bolts, got those snugged down. Good to go there. Now we can go ahead, drop this thing, get back on the ground. I'll show you guys how to prime up the fuel system and get it started and ready to go. All right, so we got everything done with our fuel tank and all that fun stuff. Got all our lines connected. Next thing we're gonna do, come out here, we've reconnected the negative cable on the battery. It's good and snug. So the next thing we need to do is we need to prime up the fuel system, because right now there's a bunch of air in it because we let the lines loose. So how we do that is, let me squeeze my butt around here. Up in. What you're gonna wanna do is you're gonna turn the key on, not start it, but turn the key on, leave it on for a second or two, a couple seconds, turn it off, and then turn it on again. What you're doing is you're running the fuel pump and priming it up to purge out any of the air in the system. All right. Started a lot better. And just like that, you got a new fuel pump. Alright guys, that's a wrap on this project. So pat yourself on the shoulder. You just changed out a fuel pump in your truck. So really not that difficult. You know, I mean, it takes some time and a little bit of know-how, and but hopefully you got through it okay, no problems. If you got any questions, feel free to give us, you know, comments or questions below. But until next time, you did a great job. Crack yourself open a cold one. I'm always about a Dr. Pepper here. So, and until next time, remember guys, stock is not an option.